Hey there, and welcome to the Confident Woman Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Brooks. Join me as I sit down with co-hosts, friends, and carefully curated guests as we talk about all the things that empower you to become your best, most confident self so you can step boldly into who you were created to be, the confident woman. Let's go. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Confident Woman Podcast. Today we have with us Monika A Mazur. I was teasing Monika earlier. I said, how do you say your name? And she says it's so perfect in her beautiful accent. So I said it very Americanized. So she's going to say it better. But anyway, Monika has a background in journalism. She came to the US as a student from Poland. She worked all the way through as a nanny in the US. She's a former fitness competitor, a boutique fitness studio owner, and finally the founder of BBM, an online fitness and life coaching platform, as well as a podcaster. Over the last 14 years, she's assisted hundreds of high achievers in mastering their mindset and fitness so that their life performance increased with ease. Her goal is to help you take your life to levels you've never thought possible. She will empower you in a way that's simple, effective, loving, but also straightforward and no nonsense. So Monika, welcome. And for those that are like, so how do you say it? Can you pronounce your last name?
It is Mazur. However, I never say it this way. It's just Monika A Mazur. That's it. I made it Americanized. It's not even Monika. It's Monika. So
I had it so Americanized from the beginning.
We make it easy.
Oh, but you say it so beautifully. I love your accent. And I presume that still, you got the heavy Polish accent still coming here. And you've been in the States for how long?
It's been 18 years now. It's been 18 years in September, and it's hard to believe because it's almost half of my conscious life. I lived in Poland until I was 21, and then I came here by myself at 21. And so now 18 years later, 21 there, 18 here. Crazy to believe that it's been that long.
Wow. And so what brought you to the US?
I think originally it was the idea that I did not want a predictable life. I knew that the route in Poland will be quite similar to all my friends and even my parents, and that is going to college, getting education. I started that. I did journalism and communications, and meeting someone, getting married, having kids, and probably at 27, 28. So by 30, you're kind of like living through your kids. Nothing wrong with that, but I didn't want it. It was just too predictable. It was just too kind of obvious, like this is going to be the route. It's kind of like you have to just fill out the shoes. And so I took the opportunity after I was dumped, literally. And I was like, all right, well, I'm single now, I can come. And so I filled out all the documents to be an au pair. And so I didn't want to do it in a stupid way. I wanted to have a plan. And so to have a family, to watch their kids, and to work and to learn the language. And accidentally, I ended up in Boston. I fell in love with Boston. I lived there for, I think, 12 or 13 years before moving to Connecticut, where I am now. But it was hard work, and it was not what I anticipated. I thought this is going to be this beautiful, life. You're just going with kids to the playground and you're having fun. And in reality, it was a lot of work. I took care of 3 little kids, twins who were 3 years old at the time and a 5-year-old. So it was a lot of work. I didn't really have time to go to school per promise of the program. So it was tough from the beginning. I had to switch families, and it was, the language barrier. You mentioned the accent. So the accent and like the immigrant language struggle kind of followed me for years, even after I became a trainer. So it was tough. It was really, really tough. But I'm the kind of person who I don't like baby steps for myself. I used to be very shy. And so what I did is I worked as a hostess back in Poland because I knew that I'm going to have to speak with people. I'm going to have to put myself in that position. I remember talking to my then host family, but when I was still in Poland, I was hiding in my room in the closet in Poland because I didn't want anyone to hear me speaking English because I was like, oh, it's so bad. My parents, my brother, I didn't want my family to hear me. So I'm believing that kind of shock therapy for myself. Like you're scared to drive, go to Manhattan. You are afraid to public speaking is not your thing. Go and public speak as much as you can, because then you realize that your comfort zone, yes, you might be freaking out, but you realize very quickly how your comfort zone can expand as you push yourself.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So you just like went all in. You just jumped into the deep end. No toe dipping, no like wading in. You're just like, this is the plan. This is what I don't want. And you just took that big leap and said, this is the next plan. If I go to the States, I'm going all in. I'm going to the big city. I'm going to learn to drive. I'm going to speak in front of people. I am going to do all the hard work. And now here you are 18 years later in the States, and you have such, such achievements, from all the things, all the successes, and you really knew what you wanted to go after, not necessarily knowing the specifics of it, but you knew you wanted something better, a higher quality of life. And here you are now 18 years later in the States, running and owning your own boutique fitness studio, to founding your own online fitness and life coaching platform, to all the things that you've done, helping hundreds of individuals just create the life that they want. And so you are like a walking testament to what you do. So tell us more about that, like how you got started in the fitness space.
So I want to just correct one thing in case my listeners are listening. I closed the studio in 2020. So I went through the fitness competitor studio and happily closed it to move online when the pandemic started. It was the best thing ever because it forced me to redirect when I was already kind of okay, I'm maxed out here. So that's just to be on point with everything. So how I started, is I hired a male trainer in 2009 or so. I was going to the gym. My background is not fitness at all. It was journalism. I was writing, reading, languages. That was my jam, not fitness. I didn't like sweating. I didn't like anything to do with PE. I did not actually do any gym activities in Poland ever. So my gym teacher would be like, what the heck, Monika? So I came here, I went to the gym kind of socially, in your early 20s. And then my doctor one day was like, Monika, at the regular checkup, Monika, you gained weight, be careful. And I never cared about my weight. I never cared about any of that. I went to the gym kind of socially, that's, to meet people and to have some activity. And so I was disappointed, but I'm the kind of person who was like, all right, well, clearly what I'm doing is not working. Let me get help. So I went to the gym, I asked for a female trainer, and they told me they didn't have any. That was Jersey Shore days, back, tan, gym, laundry, tattoos, chains, very intimidating for a young female who was foreign. But I was like, well, I'll hire one of these guys for 3 months. Let's see what I'll learn. And I didn't learn much. But again, I was like, well, I didn't learn much here, so let me go elsewhere. And I found a school in Boston where I went in person and I learned for 6 months. Nobody knew that I was doing it. On Saturdays, Sundays, I was going every single weekend. We were training each other. We were being taught how to be with clients and learning all the things. And so 3 months of not very effective coaching relationship with my first trainer got me to just get so interested. And I saw this need for women. Now we can go online and hire ourselves whoever you want, performance, if you want to compete, if you want to compete in bodybuilding, if you want to compete in CrossFit, you want to do bar, Pilates, yoga, you can hire yourself a coach in 5 minutes. Back then, it was not popular. It was before Instagram. There were really the shortage for when it came to help for women. It was a huge gap. It was a huge need. And so I was like, let me be that. And so I started working at the gym where I was being trained. And that was easy. But again, I was like, I don't like this sexist environment. I really want to help women. Let me find a place where I could actually help women. So I went and I worked for all women's gym for 7 years. And that was awesome, except I was not special anymore because now I was amongst 20 other female trainers. So suddenly it became like, oh, what's your niche? And I was like, I have no idea. Back then it wasn't even called a niche. It was just, what's your specialty, Monika? And I was like, I don't know. I'm the female trainer. And so I saw this two things that, and you relate. Well, I will ask you how you got into your competition. I would love to know the competition journey. But for me, there were two things. I realized that one, in this all women's environment, maybe that was the body positivity back then. But what was happening is people were kind of comforting each other in their discomfort. So they would be like, oh, don't worry about the fact that you gained a couple pounds, Monika. You started this job, you started commuting, or, working long hours, eating cookies on your way back home from the gym. And I realized that I'm starting to gain weight and I'm supposed to be this role model for my clients and what's happening. So that was one, like this environment of like it's okay. It's not, bare minimum for yourself. You're helping others. So yourself, you can put on the back burner. And then two, I wanted to have my own goals. So I wanted to, one, be the role model for my clients, and two, be the, someone who's actually like feeling good with herself. So that's how I got into competing. But also I was like, this is going to be great for marketing, because now I will be my walking testimonial. And that literally is what happened. It was so nice. It was such a smart thing to do, I would say. I wouldn't recommend it to someone who, just wants to have this for marketing, but to learn to create clientele who was interested in that kind of hardcore push training, and then to also have your own goals and not kind of lose yourself in the service of others. That was such a good thing. So then for 5 years, I competed as I was training there. But after some time, everything gets boring. So the competing, I'm sure you can relate, as we talked a little earlier about the awards that we both have in our video here. On one end, it's not very fulfilling. You can have the best body, you can have your abs, you can walk around in a tiny bikini on stage, but that alone is not going to give you super duper fulfillment. And then two, I realized that clients were struggling with more than just their bodies. A lot of times it was the personal development mindset thing. So I was like, okay, I need to go and pursue more of that and learn more here versus hire a different competition coach. Because after 5 years competing and 3 different coaches, I was like, I've learned plenty. I can use it. Knowing what I knew as a trainer before, I was like, this is enough. I need more of the mentality, mindset, all that in order to effectively help them. And then you also realize that being super duper in shape takes a lot of time, attention, and energy. And you cannot really serve people the best when you're training 3 hours a day and eating 1,200 calories.
Yes, to all of that. Definitely the fitness and oh my gosh, like your story is just, it's incredible, because it's like you just literally from an idea to here you are, to here you are, to here you are, to here you are, and doing the whole fitness competition. I could definitely relate to so much of what you said, because, I kind of got started around the same time as well. That was 2010. Yeah, around the same time. So like, I feel like I always struggled with like trying to like myself in the body that I was in. And I would always be so intimidated by all these men at the gyms. And, I was a dabbler of gyms. I would go and, try to find the fun that people kept talking about. The fun was at the gym. And I'm thinking, I don't know where that is. So, I keep going. I'm like, looking in the back corner. It's not there. It's not on the treadmill. It's not where all the beefy men are. And I just felt so intimidated. And I didn't have a place that I felt like I belonged as well. And so definitely can relate to feeling that gym intimidation and women not having enough of other women like us that are looking for those role models, looking to feel like, okay, I don't want a man, helping me out, because I want to feel like I can be supported by the female energy aspect of it. And so that was in 2010. I had a big loss in my family, and it just sent me spiraling out of control. And I found myself really at like the rock bottom. I was just like, after this devastating loss, and then, realizing like that, when you have loss, it puts a different perspective on life. And so I started asking myself, like, what am I doing? What am I living for? Like, this isn't life. I'm miserable in this body. I've fought against it my whole life. I used and abused it in that of myself because of eating disorders and warped perspective of how I perceive myself, to body dysmorphia, all of that stuff. I was the harshest person on my own body. And so when I was like, I'm looking to the gym to better that, and yet I'm not being met. My needs aren't being met because it was so male dominated. And then in 2010 is when I actually joined a gym, because a group of my girlfriends actually said, hey, we're thinking of going to this gym. Do you want to check it out? And so had it not been an invite from other women, I don't know where that story would lead me today. So having that camaraderie of women is so essential in all of this. I think women, we truly need each other. And we have to be like open to receiving those invitations, and you don't know who's going to invite you to do what. And so that kind of sparked me to be more consistent in the gym, because for the first time I found fun. And it was because I was with friends and we were doing activities and laughing. And, I ended up hiring a personal trainer at the gym at that time. And I was just like, hey, this is something I never, did in my fitness journey, was hire a personal trainer and actually have a goal. And so that goal became my very first competition in 2011 is when I committed, and then I competed in 2012 as my first show. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was so neat. Like you said, having that sisterhood, that women to women. Yeah, I think if anyone's listening, I think we've all experienced some aspect of gym intimidation, like beefy guys and like, hey, what are you doing here? Like, can you just point me to the treadmill? I'll just stay out of your way.
Yeah, totally. And what you said that I love is, and we forget, I think, about it, is like the invitation, right? So even if you want to do something and you don't have someone, you can always invite them. You can invite someone to go hiking with you, or go kayaking. I don't know. We have a lot of rivers in Connecticut, tubing, kayaking, whatever is it that you want to do. You can always invite others because maybe they're thinking the same and no one is just making the first step to do it.
Yeah. And that's really true. I mean, in a lot of things in life, it's sometimes we don't ask for what we want. And we are just like, we want it, but yet we're afraid to go after it or do it alone, or just feel like, okay, well, I want to enjoy the livelihood of it. And I want to share that experience. So, just having that invite and just having that companion to go do the things, it's so important. And I think it's if you're on either the giving of the invitation or the receiving of the invitation, it's so important to be mindful of that, because as a giver, you want to, make sure that person has a really great experience, because you're sharing what you have with that intention to leave a mark, and hopefully they continue that, down that journey. But also as the receiver, it's also important to be like, wow, that felt so good to be included. And then look at the fun that I had. And so now you create an experience that you want to repeat in your mind.
Right. And like, you never know, you can allow someone to say, I was actually just talking to a client before, and she's like, kind of sharing how her group of friends, she noticed through our work one-on-one together, she's like, they don't really have many goals, and they are kind of, comfortable with what they're doing, not fitness, not life, not work, not travel. And I said, well, you can start your own thing. You love hiking. How about you start like a club? You can show up as a leader and you can pull people with you. Come up, with your own theme. If the drinking theme on the weekend isn't fulfilling for you, cool. Like, you can tell them, hey, I'm doing this new thing. Do you want to join me? Who's the new person? So maybe they can show up as a leader through creating something that sparks joy for them and makes them excited. Were you the only one who competed from your group friends, or was it like a group effort?
So it was myself. So I was working out at the time. It was probably, I think, maybe four girls. And I had another friend who asked me to compete, but she was training at a whole different gym. And so we just, this should be fun, but it wasn't fun in the training aspect, because you want to do it with somebody. And so I actually brought it up to one of the other females that were in our small group. And she's like, yeah, sure. I mean, I got nothing going on that weekend anyway. It's like, 4 or 5 months out. And so just because we were consistently training together, we, did this together, and it was more fun because we had these, like, we almost played like scenarios of how it would pan out, what we're going to do, how this is going to go down. And it created this excitement, because I mean, as a competitor, I mean, it's not always fun. There's it's a lot of discipline. It's a lot of, strife and struggle. And there's some things that you do have to give up, but there's so much to gain in this. And I feel like, but I feel like I didn't learn that lesson, the gaining aspect of it, until my second round of when I competed in 2015. So, in 2012, when I competed, it was great until the day of. And then it was just like horrific, like everything, because I had, I was competing with somebody and it was fun. And, but it was the aftermath, which was just terrible. And I think that nobody mentally prepares you for the aftermath of what it's like. And especially going into a competition, already having a warped perspective of your physical body, to having eating disorders and very low self-image and self-esteem. So when I exited out of that competition, it just set me back tremendously, like probably the worst I've ever been. And it was just a really bad backfire for a plan that was supposed to go amazing. And I was supposed to have this amazing, beautiful, perfect body that I'd been longing for my whole life, that I was doing everything to use and abuse it to fit that mold of perfection. And it just didn't pan out.
I think it's very, people don't understand the competition concept because they think it's so hard. But actually, just like you acknowledged, the hard comes after. It's very easy to compete. Yeah. Anyone could do it. They might think they can't. You have a diet, very clear what, how. You have a deadline, very clear when the deadline is. Your people know about it, your friends, your family, everyone knows. So your gym even members who train alongside, they know. So you have this tunnel vision and this focus, and it's easy to do it. It's when the lights go down, and it starts on the, as you know, on the day of the competition. When the lights go down, and you go home with the award, and you're like, I'm just going to have this burger with this person, and I'm going to have this cake with this person. And I'm going to have, and you wake up a month later, 20 pounds or 30 pounds heavier, feeling worse you've ever felt in your life, mentally, physically, emotionally. People are looking like, what the heck happened to you? Yeah. And you're like feeling like a failure. And I feel like this is why people just go back and forth and compete, time after time after time. And then I actually just talked about it with my friend because she was like, Monika, that's so crazy that you did this. And I was like, actually, the crazy thing is not the competing. The crazy thing came after the last competition where I first blew up like most people will do. Yeah. And then to find your normal, to find like, what are the foods you want to eat? What are the things you want to do? How do you actually want to train? Do you want to do cardio? Do you not want to do cardio for fun? How often do you want to go to the gym? What do you want to do? And like, what's your normal weight or size? To find yourself afterwards, that is the hard thing. To compete is very easy. A lot of times I feel like people do it out of distraction, to not pay attention to other things in their lives and to just, tunnel focus vision on one thing. But yeah, I appreciate it for what it taught me, all the bodybuilding lessons, the food, nutrition, mental toughness. But at the same time, I'm the last person who would recommend to a client or anyone I know that they should go and do it, because it's kind of like, what are you trying to accomplish here?
Right. Yeah, I say the same thing because it's like, if I can talk to my former self, and I've had that when people are like, oh my gosh, I want to compete too. I'm like, just tell me why. Yeah. And I always ask them their why. And if their why is just, oh, I hate this body, or, I work out so hard and I'm not getting the results. And it's like, no, that's not the why. And I think ultimately the why for me, the first time around was to finally fix that relationship between fitness, diet, and myself. And it didn't work. Because I was just so far gone from like that space. I mean, I was not in a healed space. Right. So here I am trying to overdo the exercise and diet to compensate for not being to where I'm at that time. And then when I came back in 15, it was for a whole different reason. It was just to like be so proud of myself that I reclaimed my life. I stood on stage. I mean, the stage shots from 2012 to 15 are night and day. I mean, you can even look at me on stage in 2012 and I'm like, I don't belong there. I don't even look ready. I'm scared. It's terrible. So don't ever Google these pictures. And then at 15, there's kind of like this, it almost looks like, oddly enough, kind of like a smug shot, because you know how they're looking up with the camera from the stage, and they got this picture and my head is held so high because I was so proud of the woman I became through that journey, that it didn't even matter what my body actually looked like. And it was just me owning myself and the confidence that I felt, to reclaiming that power, to having a healthy relationship with fitness, food, and myself. And it's like, wow, if I could do this, then what can't I do? And that became the pivotal moment of just feeling so unstoppable. Like, this is what life is about. Going after what you want, working hard for it, not having to make sacrifices, but it was about more of including more in your life at those different stages that you're in. And so competing really did open my eyes to so much. And so it healed so much too. And it gave me a whole different perspective. And now it's like, I honestly, I don't diet. And I don't do anything other than just live life. And it became this lifestyle now. So when you talk about like finding your normal for you, and, and that's that I found the normal for me. I somehow always revert back to a default weight. I typically eat the same foods. I typically work out the same. Like I love the routine that I have. And if I don't, you just mix it up. So you know how it is. It's like you adjust to whatever, kind of floats your boat at that different season in your life.
I love it. I love it because I feel like it's so common that women have a hard time finding that norm, that, what is it that I am after competing? Because they so see themselves through like, this is the body and I can't replicate it right now. And so it goes, always reverting to like, I was this once and I'm now here, but one day I'll return to that. And it's like, no, you can be just fine right here, right now. So love that.
Yeah. And it's I think that kind of hit me on my first competition as well. After my competition, I had I blew up. I gained so much weight right away. And not to mention I had a severe injury that I was ignoring because I was so focused on this competition that I was just like debilitated. Like I couldn't do the things. And then I had somebody commented, they looked at me and they're like, wait a minute, I thought you were like a bikini competitor. And I was just like so insulted, but yeah, they didn't mean it in that way. They were like actually trying to mean it like, but you can do it because you're a bikini competitor. But how I perceive myself, it was insulting because it was just like, yeah, I don't look the same. I don't look strong. I don't look like the identity of a bikini competitor that I was just, several short weeks ago. And it just really dinged on that value of self-worth of myself. Like, then who am I? Right. And so that, people don't necessarily mean like have ill intention, but you have to be in that mindset to receive what their intended meaning was.
Right. And, for me too, when we speak about mindset, I realized that you can be in your best body, right? You can have abs. I think this is something that I got like with the last competition and doing figure and being so lean where, my clothes were falling off me, my leggings, everything. But then you put the bikini on and you're like, I still have fat here. I still have fat there. So that was that where I was like, it doesn't matter if I'm 150 pounds, if I'm 130 pounds or 170 pounds, I'm still me. My knowledge doesn't change. My care for people or what I do doesn't change. So it doesn't matter in what body I live, smaller, bigger, ripped, not ripped, it's still me. So that's one. But then two, what I realized that I wanted to stop competing is that my clients and the people, because back then I worked at a corporate gym, it was just such a messed up I was received in a messed up way. People would come up to me where I looked really like I looked sick. When you get so lean, your body percentage goes towards teens and your face is so skinny. Like I always felt like my nose looked so huge and I would not leave the house without full face of makeup because I was like, I look like a ghost because so lean. I didn't like it. I was just for the stage. It wasn't like, oh, I want to stay here. And members of the gym women would be like, you look so amazing, Monika. And I was like, no, I don't. Like, I would never want to look like this for life. And I was like, you think this is amazing? And then clients being like, oh, Monika, are you sad that you're gaining weight after? And it's like, do you understand what it takes to be this way? Do you understand that I cannot even have milk in my coffee and I cannot chew gum and I have to do 2 hours of cardio every day to be this way because my body naturally just wants to be chunkier? And they just were not getting it. And I was like, I don't want to promote this for clients. It was really, when I left Boston and then moved from Boston to Connecticut and so I quit that job, worked with many people online anyways, but I moved and I worked for a little gym. Well, it's not a little gym, but it was for elderly. It literally was working with elderly. So I went from being the competitor, coaching the most fit chicks in Brookline, Massachusetts, to then moving to New Haven, thinking this Yale is going to be similar to Boston. It was not, but because of the location, but I was working with elderly for a year. And it was cool to see that the training method that I developed worked well with 70 and 80-year-olds. But it was also cool to kind of like work on my own self and be like, okay, what do I want to be? How do I want to train? For these 70-year-old ladies, they were like, oh my God, Monika, you're amazing. Because I had good posture. Because they were like, you're so straight. You're so amazing. And I was like, well, thank you. That's, from training. But, for them, it didn't matter if I was lean or not lean. And so it allowed me to kind of look like, where do I want to be? And so when I opened my studio, I was like, all right, this is me. This is how I train. This is what I do. And this is what we're going to do together. And so I needed this like year, almost like a break working with elderly, when I was like, all right, the competitor is dead. What are we doing here? We need to recreate it. And then when I closed, so that was working with elderly. I had the studio for 3 years, and it was local here in Connecticut. So obviously people from Boston, from my old relationships, were not working with me because, online, but not seeing me. And when Corona started and I started doing Zoom sessions and seeing people on Zoom, many of my former clients returned wanting to train on video, wanting to have sessions face to face again, with the old approach of like, I'm going to do 2 hours a day. I'm going to do hour of cardio and I'm going to eat this meal plan. And I was like, no, that's not how we're playing. And a lot of them were like, whoa, what are you talking about, Monika? And I was like, no, this old way of doing things, the way we did it when I did NPC, is not happening right now. This is not long term. This was a solution we had in 2012, where we were in our 20s. We had the time. We didn't have businesses. We didn't have families. We didn't have jobs, careers. We were just, fresh out of college. For me, that was just being a new trainer. We're not doing things this way. We need to look at the big picture. You want to have kids one day. You want to be healthy forever. You don't want to rack your hips and knees and joints. Let's do it the smart way. And a lot of them were like, whoa, what the heck? It took some time to kind of transition that into like, okay, let's do it holistically. Let's include mindfulness. Let's include you actually looking at other areas of your life that maybe are not working, and you're wanting to do 3 hours of training because you really don't like your husband. So let's address the things that will make your life better as a whole, not just those things that would give you better abs. Because I stood there on the stage with those great abs, and I would think to myself, oh, that's it. Now what's next? It was not fulfilling. Those, I remember standing on stage and being like, okay, well, now what? This is, I look great, but I don't feel so great. And the tin is stinky and I don't want to be here. So I realized through this adventure where, of competing and coaching women, that like, as coaches, we have to be very responsible of what we're putting out there, because our people will follow and listen, sometimes blindly even, because if they trust you and you have a relationship with them. So you have to be responsible because, they will follow the 3 hours of training if you tell them to do so. And is this the best for them? Not so much.
Right. And it's like you said, you become that role model. So if you're in the field, and people are looking up to you, and they're like, but that's the goal. And I think, as women, because there's so much of that additional pressure put on us, is that we have to look a certain way. And so when we see that, woman who has it all, we think, okay, if she could do it, then I could do it. I'm going to go work with her and I'm going to get the same results as her. And it's like, when you're in that situation, it almost becomes like this cry for help. And it's because you have such a disconnect with your body that you're longing for somebody else's, but it's about building back that healthy relationship so that you can lovingly care for your body for all the right reasons. And so that's why I kind of say, with like fitness and nutrition as a whole, instead of versus diet, because dieting, or if you look at, I'm kind of a word nerd. And so looking up the word diet, it just means the food and beverages that you consume. But nutrition is having the values, the nutritional properties of those, the foods and beverages you consume. So when we look at it from that as a long haul, that's what we're aiming for, right? Don't we want to feed our body with, whole nutrient dense, real foods, while also still dabbling and enjoying, life's fun things like treats and wine and girls' nights and birthdays and all the things, right? But it's about getting an overview of your lifestyle. Like, if that's how you're living, 80% of the time going to parties and happy hours, well, you're a byproduct of that 80% of that lifestyle. So it's a kind of just finding that I wouldn't say balance and moderation is a one size fits all, but you have to find what works for you, right? And knowing what your normal is and where you're comfortable and where you can feel confident in the skin you're in.
Right. And I think the nail on the head is what you said with the diet, right? I also don't use the word diet just because it's just people have it that they're going to be put on the diet, right? It's just your food, your nutrition, and that's it. And I don't give people diets. I don't promote diets. It's always like, let's slow you. Because I think people have it backwards through that industry where it's like, okay, give me the diet so I can get fast results, so that I can have big progress, so I can see, before and afters. And it's like, no, let's slow it down. Let's just take it to the basics. Let's think, what is it? Literally the session that I had with a client before we get on, I was like, what is it that goes, because she was upset with herself. She trains really hard. She's doing all the things. And she's like, well, not hard, but, she shows up for herself when it comes to training. And so, because I also don't believe that you have to be killing yourself to have results when it comes to training either. But she was like, the weekends come and it's like, okay, I have a glass of wine. I'll only say I'm going to have one. But then on the third one, I'm like, okay, well, what's going through your head when you're allowing yourself to have the first, second, third, fourth, and those things? She's like, I don't keep promises to others. I keep promises to myself. And I'm like, well, let's slow it down. Let's pay attention to what is it that how are you justifying this? How are you doing, the talk in your head? What is it? Is it just one, or I'm working so hard? Because next time, it's not that I'm going to be calling you and slapping you on the head. No, but next time when that talk shows up, you'll be aware, oh, there she is again, trying to have me have another glass of wine or third or fourth or cookies where I said I wouldn't. Like, you slowing down. It's not about like, I have a competition, I have a coach who's going to yell at me, or I have to log everything in my fitness pal, because that's short-lived. The moment the competition passes, the coaching relationship ends, or you're not logging my fitness pal, you're not, it's not there. The structure for you to be successful is not there. So your head will stay. Let's master you and your thinking so you can get there without any external, like someone slapping you on the hand where you're doing something bad, which is not bad anyway.
Yeah. And I hate that we have to slap labels on things, good or bad, healthy and dirty, clean, all, fat free, sugar free, like all the free things that are just like, okay, and they could be so misleading and overwhelming too, because you're thinking, oh, okay, well, if everything now is like fat free and sugar free and carb free and calorie free or something, I don't even know. Everything is just like free of something. But then it's like, what are you supposed to eat? Because, if you're told you can't have protein, all the myths are like protein.
For your kidneys, right?
Kidneys, it's not good for your body. Your carbs make you fat.
Right.
Fat. And it's like, then what is left? Because if you understand nutrition, those are your macronutrients. That's what makes up your calories. So if you remove those, then you have 0 calories. Like it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And so I just remember being the earlier stage of my life where I was talking about going to the gym and, hanging out with some girlfriends. And I remember that invite from my girlfriends. They invited me to go to this pool at one of the local gyms that had an outdoor pool. And we stopped at one of the food stores that sells whole foods. And I was thinking, great. So this is right up my alley because I'm going to get all the good foods that I'm going to need so I could feel my best. And I was so overwhelmed by the selection because I'm in this store that sells, whole nutrient dense foods. I'm in the aisles and I'm bombarded by the labels and the brands and all the things. And I was just like, I don't even know what to get. I mean, I just had poor eating habits anyway. And so I remember grabbing a bag of like gluten-free, whole grain, sugar-free chocolate chip cookies or something like that. And I mean, they had all the things on it, but I was like, okay, gluten-free, that's good. I'm not going to get like, blow up. I'm not going to have the sugar from the chocolate chips. It's whole grain, so it's good for me. And I'm over here just so proudly, grabbing my bag of snacks. And I was going up to the register and I see all my girlfriends like getting veggie and hummus trays or stuff. And I'm thinking, that's boring too. But I didn't understand any of this stuff. And so we go to the pool and I remember sitting there just chewing on my cookie and I'm watching all the crumbs just like fall down my sweaty body and collecting in like the suntan oil. And I'm thinking, I am so far gone. Like, I don't even understand food to this capacity, but I'm eating the things that don't make me feel good. I'm disgusted by how internally I perceive myself. And it was just this really like low period of my time because it was just like, I need to do something different and I cannot continue on this path doing what I'm doing because it's not working. And that, really opened my eyes to, I have a warped relationship with food. And that was brought on by years of eating disorders to now exacerbated to disordered eating. And I didn't even know what to eat then at that point. And I was so afraid to eat because I didn't know what to eat.
How did you deal with it? Did you hire help? Did you go like to educate yourself? What did you do?
Well, so this was right before I started competing. So I figured if I go compete, they're going to tell me what to eat. If I eat the same, 6 sad things that are all of God's glory of food, these were like the worst 6 things, like chicken, broccoli, rice, 6 almonds, and like a can of tuna. Like, how miserable is that? And so I thought that competition would help me rid. Yeah. And so anyway, it didn't. That plan backfired. But it was during that downtime of 2012 to 15 is where I really, because I couldn't go to the gym and go do the things again. I hired my first fitness coach who helped me with nutrition, but is also having a foundation for exercise, because I didn't have a blueprint for that, more or less. Like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to get bulky. I didn't want to do all the big things that the guys were doing. I've been a cardio bunny my whole life, and I just wanted somebody to tell me what to do because I was just that exhausted. And so she gave me the workout plan, which was great because I just, like you said, you go in, you know exactly what you're doing.
Exactly.
But then it was a lot of the learning curve of understanding food. I had to unlearn all the things that I believed about food and started tracking. And as annoying as tracking was, I'm so grateful for that lesson because it's a short learning curve. And you start realizing that you are a creature of habit. You're eating the same foods. So you just plug and play, you track your measurements, how much the nutrient values in it. And it really opens your eyes, because people who think like, oh, but I eat clean, I eat a salad and, I have this and I have that, but they don't have an understanding of the full picture of what they're actually consuming. So that was eye-opening for sure.
I always, say that this is a very good thing to actually track at some point, because you'll learn what are the things, because we all are different. You see, I didn't have any struggles with food growing up because in Poland, where I was raised, you eat real food.
Yeah.
So like, even if you have bread, the bread is made out of 5 things: yeast, flour, water, maybe milk. And that's that. The bread goes bad. It's, you have 2 slices, you're full. You have eggs, you have bread, you have meat, you have vegetables, you have potatoes, but it's all like in the proportions. Like when I moved here, I was like, wow, the candy aisle? What? Like we had all these things, but not the sizes. I remember being an au pair and like you barely make any money. So like we would go to Starbucks and get like the big, or Panera Bread, get these big, huge, giant, like hot chocolate with caramel and whipped cream, and then a pastry on the side. It's like 1,000 calories for both, if not more. But I had no clue. This is like, wow, in America we eat. And then after 6 months, I'm like, oh, my Polish clothes are a little too tight. What am I doing wrong? And it's like, I went from eating real food to then being, and I remember for years saying like, when I was a nanny and I wasn't really responsible for like my food, as in like the families would buy the food for the family. So I ate what they ate. I remember when people would ask me, my European friends and Polish friends, what's the difference? And I would always say like, it's so hard to eat well here. It's so hard. And, it's not hard, but yes, you have to make an effort, because you can stop at any gas station and get yourself a bar, or get yourself, cookies, or get yourself donuts from Dunkin' Donuts, but it's not easy to stop and get a salad. Like you actually have to go and figure it out. All right, well, diners will serve you something like this, or, you can go to special places, to places with buffets, grocery stores where you can actually get healthy food. But when you are just like convenience wise, it's not really right there for you. So like, even though I prefer these foods, like the lifestyle and the way things are organized here first also like hit me, where I was like, oh, like I didn't have to worry about my pants being too tight in Poland ever, even though I was not into fitness. And here I am exercising and I'm gaining weight. What's going on? And so I feel like the culture is a little different. And also the fact that a lot of things revolve around food. Let's get together for coffee. Let's get together for drinks. Let's get together for lunch, for dinner. You have to make effort. Like I said to my client before we got on, make your own hiking club instead of drinking with your friends on the weekend. Like you like hiking, take the people who want to go. If they don't want to go, involve other people from our community, from other people, from other places where you are responsible for what you're doing, not just going by autopilot. All right, everyone is doing drinking party again. Let's eat poorly, processed, highly processed food, poor quality food, and drink because that's what everyone does. Like, you can take responsibility and educate yourself. You can take responsibility and create new habits or new places where you go, where you can have healthy things, but you have to, you have to take responsibility. It's not easy. It's harder. I feel like that in many other countries and cultures, because we're so busy here, we're running around, we're working a lot. We have not much vacation here. So all the things, we're just pushed more, I feel like. So therefore the health and well-being kind of goes on the back burner.
Right. And I think it's because we live such a fast-paced life here in the States. Everything is fast, 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 fast. So, from what we eat to think, to do, to sleep. I mean, we even shorten our sleep because we try to cram everything into the short, 24-hour period. But, in reality, 24 hours is enough for us to live, work, and enjoy life. But we just work. It's just the head down and just grind kind of mentality where everything is just easily and accessible because we're like, oh, we pop our heads up like, yeah, we haven't eaten like all day. You just grab something on demand and there it is. And sometimes we just blindly gorge ourselves because we're starving at this point and we overeat or we undereat. And that's where we miscalculate too, because we think, well, I'm only eating once a day. Well, that could also be a problem because you're actually undereating. Or your food choices are not conducive for, the goals of your physical health and well-being that you are looking to achieve.
Right. So, no, I so agree. I just came back from Poland. I was there for over 2 weeks. And, it's funny because there's no culture of getting food and walking with it. There's no such thing as you're like grabbing coffee and walking with coffee and donuts or just even coffee, like you're grabbing Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts walking. You either can sit down at a cafe and have your coffee or you can sit and have a meal, but there's no such thing as drive-throughs left and right. So when I got coffee and I was like, oh, just take it, and I'll take a walk with the coffee. My brother was like, like, what are you going to do? You're going to walk with the coffee cup outside? I was like, yeah, that's a normal thing, right? This is a normal thing. No, this is all melted now. But, it's different. And again, like you're saying, we can, but it takes a little bit more effort on our end to just turn on that mindfulness and be like, all right, do I not have time to eat healthy or do I prioritize scrolling on TikTok? And therefore I don't have, or watching Netflix at night instead of preparing my lunch for tomorrow so that I can actually eat healthy and get the fitness goals or just feel good. Like forget fitness goals, feel good. It's hard to live when you're not, I always talk about it as dead food. Like if you're eating dead food, you're going to feel dead. You're not going to feel like you have energy. Look at the plate of someone who's having, lettuce, tomatoes, mushrooms, onions. This looks like this is life. This is colorful. This is full of life. You're going to eat this. You're going to feel like this. If you eat pretzels and I don't know, fried stuff, that's all brown and dead. If there was any value in it, it's gone. Yeah. Don't eat it.
And it's good for, treats occasionally, here and there. But when it becomes that every day, then, yeah, that's something that you have to say, wow, no wonder, they say like you are what you eat. Well,
for sure. I'm also, again, fun is fun for sure, but it's also like paying attention to what our bodies like and what they don't like. Like, I can totally have a glass of wine, but if I have two, I'll feel it the next day. I just will feel it. That's just what it is. And I don't have to make stop myself because I know. So like, I don't want to pay the consequences the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can agree on that. I mean, I was just like, I think the older we get to and you're like, ooh, that was maybe one glass too many.
I know.
We can't rebound like we did back in our 20s, I guess, when, that was all the fun time. But
it's the same, it's sleeping, I feel like, and just like recovery in general. In the 20s, you can bang out 3 sessions in the gym in a day and you're like, yes, I'm competing. This is great. And, now in the 30s, late 30s and clients who are in their 40s, it's like 1 session a day, 45 minutes. Make sure you get massage, your acupuncture, your Reiki and your deep tissue, and you go floating because you need to recover, which, I mean, I love it. I love that I feel like with age, we also, because we know ourselves better, we spend more time, attention, and money on treating ourselves. And that's good.
Yeah. Sure. Oh my goodness. So many good things that we just talked about because it's so, I don't know. I mean, these are the kind of conversations I needed for me back then, like around that time as well. And so maybe I'm like, oh yeah, so I don't have to like just eat celery in my tears because this is what life is because I don't know what to eat. But it's, and I think you and I kind of both got started around the same time with that core mission that there needed to be other women like us to be role models for the younger versions of us back then. And it was just, I love meeting women who have that mentality that it's just like, if I needed it, let me be that answer for somebody else, because there's always somebody that's coming up behind you who is just looking for that. And of course, you have done this work for, 14 years with your clients. So how can our listeners learn more about you, find out more about your BBM programs and platforms and all the things? So just let's give us the goods.
Everywhere you'll find me under the same name, Monika with K A Mazur. So whether my podcast, because I have one too, when I go quickly by myself. So I'm thankful for being here together. So podcast, Monika A Mazur podcast, and Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest. So just Monika with K and then A, and then the rest is going to show up. So my goal is to, empower women to live the lives of their dreams, however it looks like for them, not necessarily through fitness. Lots of it is through self-awareness. So sometimes on my podcast, I joke that I tickle your pickle, as in trigger you a little bit, so you can get, thinking like, oh, what is it that I'm doing that's not working for me? And so like the whole idea for me is to just little chunks, digestible, so you can little by little adjust your life so that you can increase your awareness, so you can ask for more, you can get more, you can have more peace of mind doing all of it. And that's like my whole life mission. But I'm so glad we touched on the competing, because I feel like I haven't talked about this on my podcast. I haven't talked about this at all with my people for a very long time, because it's not relevant to what we're doing right now all that much, but yet it's such a foundation for you and I. This is big. This is something that gave us so much knowledge about ourselves, about food, about training, about helping others. And so without it, we wouldn't have been who we are right now. So I'm so glad we covered that today.
I am too. And I don't think that even of all the episodes we've had, I don't think we've actually talked about it in depth as much as we have today, because we covered so many different facets, from, getting started to the pitfalls of it, to the rewards of it, to the longevity of creating a healthy and balanced lifestyle around it, to now coming full circle, giving back to others who may or may not be on the fence of competing, but on looking for a better quality of life. And, we say like health and fitness is, our top values. I mean, if we're not at our best, we can't serve the rest. And if we come from a place of service, we need to make sure that this vessel that we live in is being fueled and nourished with, proper care and love and food and all the things that really equip us to live a life of purpose and passion. And so I'm grateful that we got a chance to connect here and talk about all these things, and two women, different lifestyles. And we both were drawn to the similar, background with fitness. And I think it's something that is culturally diverse, where we're, you come from Poland, and with the same, expectations that I had here, and the rules and the norms of what is worthy and acceptable, that made us to turn to competing, I guess, for the wrong thing, which in turn led us to all the right things. So these are lessons that I'm grateful for, and it brought us together here to share our work and our passion with others.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to share our episodes with my peeps, because it's going to be something that I haven't covered in a very long time, if at all. So thank you. And I knew we're going to find something that's going to be so relevant to both of us and to others as well. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the Confident Woman Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Thanks again for listening.